Hi folks, welcome back to the Cannabis Corner. I'm your host, Kerry Burns. I started to do this week's episode on some growing techniques and some different organic practices that I've been using myself as a gardener as an organic gardener for a long time. But I saw this news report yesterday, and after seeing that, I just had to change my plans, and we'll do the gardening tips and stuff on the next episode. But I'm sure many of you that live in Texas, for sure, and around the Austin area and Georgetown, and certainly in East Texas, I'm sure y'all have heard of Williamson County. And this place is notorious. The law enforcement there in Williamson County is notorious for their assault on pot smokers, cannabis growers, people who have anything to do with cannabis and all. They really throw the book at them. I mean, they would really treat a drunk driver that's been in a wreck with more respect and certainly better off than they treat the people down there with pot. But their latest episode here, I mean, this just goes to strengthen what I talked about in the last episode, where, you know, we have two states in this United States that have cannabis legal for people of age. People are allowed to grow it, they're allowed to possess it, they're allowed to go down and buy it at legitimate stores that are set up there in the various cities there in Colorado and Washington. And we stressed in this last episode that, you know, cannabis arrests across this country need to come to a screeching halt today, and stop, you know, even though your state hasn't, you know, gotten smart enough yet to make it legal or not, we still need to have law enforcement just, you know, put an absolute quelch on this marijuana arrest and can continue ruining of people's lives. And hardly turn around 2 weeks later, and here we go. This kid, 19-year-old kid out of Williamson County there, was arrested because he had a pan of brownies, and it had some cannabis in it and apparently, supposedly, some hash oil. And the law enforcement there couldn't determine how much cannabis, illegal narcotics, was in this batch of brownies. So what they did, they weighed the entire pan of brownies, which of course weighed over a pound, and this is how they assessed the penalty to this kid. Now, I'm sure a lot of you out there have made brownies before, and certainly eaten a lot of them. I know I've eaten a lot of them, and I don't think that there'd be much disagreement with any of you out there that you probably put maybe, a half ounce, maybe an ounce of cannabis in each batch of brownies, you know, which in the state of Texas would be, you know, simple possession, unfortunately, and a misdemeanor. But they have taken now this pan of brownies and weighed it, and of course it was over a pound, which in the state of Texas is a felony, and this kid's facing a 5 to 20 year sentence for possession of a felony amount of cannabis. And, you know, this kid was a football player in high school. It wasn't like he was just some sort of bum on the street and all, like a lot of the powers that be would like people to believe that pot smokers are, and people who do that type of stuff. But this kid probably had a really promising future ahead of him. And here he is now. He's facing a felony possession charge just because we have law enforcement that continually is hell-bent on this arrest and ruining of pot smokers' lives. Even though we're all Americans here in the United States, and we have two states that have already, you know, the voters there finally got it right and made cannabis legal, we still tolerate that the rest of the 48 states and all the law enforcement there, they can still just carry on as if nothing has ever happened, and that it's some kind of deadly narcotic like they constantly preach. Cannabis, in its entire 7.5 decades since they made it illegal in 1937 with the Marijuana Tax Act, has never killed anyone. It has never sent anyone to the hospital. The 4.5 decades that I've been smoking cannabis, not one time did I feel like my life was in any kind of danger or threatened, or felt like I needed to go to the hospital, or like something serious was fixing to happen to me. Not one time. Not one time. And I can tell you, I've smoked cannabis daily for the last 45 years. I just do not understand how law enforcement and society in general can sit back and take a very beneficial herb and turn it into what it has become. And not only that, we have, fellow Americans in other states that enjoy the privileges now of legal cannabis, yet the other Americans, we don't have the same rights apparently. We have to still, live under this scrutiny of law enforcement and government. And thank God you're not in Williamson County, because, there they take a pan of brownies that you might have had a half ounce of cannabis in there, which would have been a simple possession charge, and it shouldn't have even been that. And this kid could have paid a fine and gotten out of it. Probably would have had to go to drug school and pay probation for a year, I'm sure, there in Williamson County, because they're notorious for throwing the book at pot smokers and anybody busted with pot, even small amounts. I mean, I had a friend there that was coming through there, and he had less than a half ounce of weed on him. The cop tried to tell him it was several ounces at the time, which it wasn't. It was less than a half ounce when they weighed it, and he had to spend 6 weeks in jail down there because he couldn't afford a lawyer or anything, and he wasn't doing anything. He was just passing through there. He didn't even break the law to even be pulled over. So I mean, it's notorious down there, but across the board, across the United States, daily, people are continually getting arrested for possession of cannabis, distribution of cannabis, whatever, and they're having their lives ruined. And we're taking away, we're pulling the plug on productive citizens here in this country that probably are doing productive things, and the only black mark, if you even want to call that, because society has labeled it that way, is the fact that they enjoy using this cannabis herb instead of maybe drinking. Thank God this kid wasn't drunk and had killed somebody in a car wreck or something. Thank God for that. Or doing some kind of deadly narcotics that does kill people, or even cigarette smoking would have been way worse. That as many people as that kills. Thank God that he had the sense of mind to at least use cannabis anyway. And no matter if it was in the form of brownies or hash oil or whatever, it's certainly way safer than anything out there. And this hash oil, I mean, they want to make a big deal because it had hash oil in it. Hash oil is strictly the resin that is produced when you do an extraction of the cannabis plant material. And it's usually done with the leaves. Very rarely is it done with the buds. It can be done with the buds. It just generates more resin that way. But most of the time, growers accumulate quite a bit of leaf and stuff, and this is one way to get the cannabis oil out of there, and they do a simple extraction with a solvent. That's all it is, and it's dried out, and then you smoke it. And it's just the resin from the flowers or the leaves themselves, nothing else. It's not like it's some big dangerous drug that they've put in these brownies and made it, just going to kill somebody. It's just not the case. And once again, we have this borderline here of what I like to say stupidity and lack of common sense. I mean, seriously, lack of common sense. If you really wanted to find out how much cannabis was in these brownies, you could have made a batch without the brownies, without the cannabis, and then weighed that batch and then done a subtraction on the two. I bet probably then the kid wouldn't have even been facing maybe a 1/4 ounce of weed charge, and not a felony pound or more charge that y'all are trying to stick with him. Now this is absolutely insane. Even his father, who admits that he, and like most people in Texas, he's pretty much a conservative Texan, which is a lot of people are, but even he has the sense to not only know his son, trust his son, but to know how this is ridiculous and beyond what should be going on, particularly when we do have 2 states, that have already made cannabis legal for Americans. And if we're all Americans, then none of these cannabis laws should apply to anybody in the other 48 states if 2 states have already adopted that. I don't know where the disconnect is here. Is it like some of us are different types of Americans, or what that is? But this is an issue that shouldn't even be coming before a vote. This is a matter of personal choice. If a person wants to grow cannabis, that's their choice. They want to smoke cannabis, that's their choice. They want to make a batch of brownies and eat every one of them, and it wouldn't even kill them, that's their choice. Not law enforcement's decision to have this reign of terror that they are just doing nonstop. as if nothing has ever changed. And this is wrong, folks. How do we as a society sit back and have young lives like this young man here, this 19-year-old man, his whole life's ahead of him. And now he's facing a felony charge because he had a pan of brownies. And we have legal edibles in 2 states. You can go and buy them and eat them today. What is that all about? What does the amount matter anyway? What does the amount matter? Because the laws are structured that way on the amount of cannabis that you have. Is that ridiculous or what? If that's not a setup for what is going on and what has been going on for decade upon decade in this country, and this bogus lies that support this type of aggressive behavior by law enforcement. And then this overly aggressive behavior that you see in certain law enforcement counties, such as Williamson County. I mean, I don't even live down near Williamson County, but I would avoid it like the plague because I've heard so many things about it. And I know so many people have told me this, just personally that I know, that have had bad issues there in Williamson County. So it really might, if I know somebody that's done it, then I'm sure that this is pretty widespread and rampant. And I'm sure this kid with the brownies is just a shining example of what's going on there. And sir, your son is a good boy. Just because he smokes cannabis, I know you don't love him any less, and I know you know your son and what a fine young man it is. And believe me, you can smoke a lifetime of cannabis. It doesn't ruin the person you are if you're a person of good character and you're a person who has good, strong work ethics and stuff. You can smoke cannabis all day long. It will not change any of that. And that's what's got to change in this country, is this mentality of just because you're a cannabis user, you're some sort of junkie laying in the alleyway with a needle in your arm. Because that's just what all these people think that are playing along with what law enforcement has been spewing out. And this assessment of the tag deadly narcotics is perfect proof of it, because that's truly what they want the public to believe. And this is wrong. Young man, I wish you good luck. I do hope that you're able to get out of this without, too much trouble. Get a good lawyer. I'm sure it won't be too hard to prove how ridiculous this is, and what a lack of common sense and judgment has been used by law enforcement there down in Williamson County over this. I want to take just a second to welcome each and every one of you to a sub-channel that I'm going to do on the Cannabis Corner YouTube channel. And it's called My Take. And what this is going to be, this is going to be short videos about different issues going on in the United States of America, not cannabis related. We'll keep all of those to the Cannabis Corner, but these are just different issues. It'll vary from one end of the spectrum to the other, but I encourage all of you to check that out. We're going to launch that sub-channel this week, and after you watch the new edition of the Cannabis Corner, I urge you to click on over and leave some comments. I really want to know what you think about the stuff we're talking about, and we'll try not to make it too lengthy so we don't bore you, as we often do sometimes with the Cannabis Corner. But I thank every one of you for subscribing to our channel. Continue the fight. Remember, we're all Americans here. We all deserve the freedoms to be able to use cannabis, to grow our own cannabis, to be able to go buy our cannabis if we can't grow it, or just to go and try different varieties or whatever, without law enforcement breathing down our necks, without having to worry about going to jail, without having to pay fines, take some kind of drug school or probationary period where we pay levy a penalty that we pay every month. This is insane, not to mention the lives that are being ruined. So keep the fight up, and I thank every one of you for listening and watching the Cannabis Corner. Thank you.